Welcome into the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. I'm coming to you from the Lee Company Studios here in Columbia. Wade Neely is coming to you from the Lee Company Studio at his home down in Pulaski. Hope y'all had a great Thanksgiving weekend. I know I did. But it's time to get back to the grind, and we will be here for the next couple of hours discussing sports of local, regional, and national import. So stick around. It's going to be fun. Wade, how was your Thanksgiving? You're on mute.
Off to a great start, but yeah, Thanksgiving was great. Time to be thankful, time to gorge, time to get back in the gym immediately, and time to go shopping. A little Cyber Monday action for everybody out there today.
I did a little, it's Black Friday, is Cyber Monday. I don't know what Saturday is, but I got online and
small business Saturday on gotta show the love to the small businesses.
I knocked out some online purchases on Saturday, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself because I'm not a big online shopper by design, but found some decent deals. So hey, yay me. Did you I don't know if we should save this for Top 5 Tuesday, but I'm going to go ahead and break the seal on it right now. Did you try the pineapple and cheese casserole?
Did not get a chance to try it. There was too much activity going on, and the kitchen was off limits for me for a big chunk of the day. But it sounds like you did, though.
I did, and it was a hit. I need to do it again because I think it can be better. But it went over well. Surprisingly, considering a week ago I had never heard of it, but yeah, yes. it was good stuff, man. I mean, it's pineapple, it's cheese, it's bound to be good. So yeah, it went over well. I was pretty happy with the reception it got. So we'll be doing that again. But yeah, big weekend, a lot going on, a lot to talk about here over the next couple of hours, and to help us do it. In the second hour, we will be joined by the Queen of Tennessee sports journalism, Teresa M. Walker of the Associated Press, as we continue to consider the Tennessee Titans. Because, I mean, they're an NFL team right here in our backyard, and so we kind of have to talk about them. I'll be honest with you, there are times I just assume not, but we're going to talk about them and talk about their tough trip to the nation's capital yesterday. In the next segment, we will be joined by the biggest University of Tennessee fan west of the Mississippi, is what we've decided we are going to call Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno, as the Vols gave some folks some heart palpitations early on Saturday, but got the result that they wanted with a 36-23 win at Vanderbilt in the regular season finale for both teams. Both teams headed to postseason play. Neither of them know where just yet. And we're going to kind of sort that out for at least one of those teams here in the next segment with Christopher Gabriel. We'll be talking a lot of college football here in the first hour. Some coaches relocating, or if not relocating, you ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here for some guys this weekend, including one with local ties, unfortunately. We'll be talking a little NFL. We saw a little statistical anomaly last night. Mark, be sure you get the video of this one, by the way, because it's pretty intriguing. But yeah, we'll talk some NFL aside from the Titans. There's some baseball movement. The hot stove is heating up with some free agency signings. We've also got some high school football state championship games looming later this week. We'll talk a little bit about those matchups here later in the show as well. And some good news for a friend of the show. We'll get to that as well. So plenty to talk about here as we return from the Thanksgiving holidays. And again, looking forward to doing so. Wade, anything else we need to know as we launch? You're on mute again.
got a meowing cat, so I'm trying to avoid that. But
Don't worry about the cat, man. We're cat people.
It was business as usual. Classic Thanksgiving weekend. You had the great food. You had the great family. Michigan beats Ohio State again. I mean, it was just like business as usual for the final rivalry week. Just like every other family across the country, some folks got a little testy over the weekend. So, I mean, it was great. No complaints whatsoever. And now we roll right in to the month of December here. Looking forward to a good one today.
Absolutely. How many shopping days till Christmas? Not sure. I'm going to try not to burn them all. Typically I do, but we'll see how that goes. At any rate, let's go ahead and dive in with as many of this weekend's results as Mark gave us in today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Hey, folks, before we get into the Monday rundown, I want to remind you that it is brought to you by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education in Murray County. So give them a call today at 931-388-5831 or visit them online at zioneagles.org and schedule an appointment today. That's Zion Christian Academy, where they are prepared for college and equipped for purpose.
High school football results from this past weekend. These were all Division I state semifinal matchups. The winners advanced to the Blue Cross Bowl state championships in Chattanooga this weekend. Houston with a 24-21 back and forth victory over visiting Ravenwood in Class 6A. Also in Class 6A, Oakland rallies for a 21-13 win over visiting Maryville. It was Melrose in Class 4A scoring with less than a minute to play to knock off defending state champion Pearl Cone 14-7 down in Memphis. In 5A, it was Page 31, Springfield 7. The Patriots have outscored their 14 opponents 504-31.
Dominant win yet again, and sadly, the Springfield run comes to a close.
Yeah. The number 4 seed out of their region, Springfield, advances to the semifinals before bowing out. In Class 3A, East Nashville falls at Westview 50-36. Girls basketball action from Friday. Bradley Central with an 84-33 win over Ensworth. It was Columbia Central 66, Maplewood 27. Harding Academy with a 42-37 win over Columbia Academy. Hillsborough defeated Culleoka 57-53. Clarksville 56, Eagleville 44. It was Forest Downing Battle Creek 68-25. Heritage with a 79-32 win over Wilson Central. Summertown defeated Lead Academy 61-15. Lebanon flipped it on Brentwood 74-47. Lipscomb Academy with a 66-47 win over Livingston Academy. Hampshire edged Mount Pleasant 35-33. Mount Juliet defeated Spring Hill 60-25. Stewart's Creek 54, Lincoln County, 44. And Laverne with a 55-15 win over Zion Christian.
Scores coming in from Saturday. Brentwood defeating Cannon County 73-49. It was Coffee County 90-54 for Ensworth. Big win for Coffee County there. Coffee County also with another win, defeating Stewart's Creek 58-28. Columbia Academy was a 36-22 winner versus Laverne. Livingston Academy 69, Culleoka just 23. East Nashville on top of Marshall County 44-18. Ezel Harding defeating Columbia 55-53, nail biter there. Grace Christian Knoxville 64, Wilson Central 53. Hillsborough on top of Rossville Christian 43-32. Lipscomb Academy takes care of Clark Range 57-30. Eagleville on top of Maplewood 56-31. Upperman downing Mount Juliet 59-47. Forest defeating Mount Pleasant 68-13. Westmoreland 52, Spring Hill 39. It was Webb School 63, Pearl Cone 42. Harding Academy in a low-scoring affair defeats Whites Creek 29-24. And capping Saturday girls action was Siegel 62, Zion Christian 26.
In boys basketball action from Friday, Cascade with a 78-36 win over Battle Creek. It was Community 71, Kip Nashville 25. Loretta with a 78-32 win over Franklin County. Stone Memorial defeated Lebanon 81-70. It was Lipscomb Academy 64, Mount Juliet 42. Shelbyville with a 73-51 win over Clarksville Northeast. And Brentwood defeated Whites Creek 77-42. Those were all on Friday. On Saturday, Brentwood High School defeats Lipscomb Academy 75-55. Hillsborough with a 60-53 win over Christian Brothers. It was Community 86, Battle Creek 41. Loretto with a 76-50 win over Cascade, and Upperman defeated Mount Juliet 87-56.
Women's college basketball coming in from Friday down in Fort Myers. Michigan Wolverines defeating Belmont 68-58. On Saturday on the women's hardwood action, it was Manhattan defeating Austin Peay 61-46. Iowa State taking care of MTSU 75-59. TSU downing UNC Asheville 92-87. Belmont defeating Davidson 69-59. Again, Belmont playing down there in Fort Myers. Alabama Birmingham defeating UT Southern in women's basketball on Saturday 114-65. Sunday women's action, it was Austin Peay bouncing back with a 59-58 win versus FAU. Vanderbilt takes care of App State. That final was 94-40.
Middle also lost over the weekend, unfortunately. Middle's women lost to
Iowa State on Saturday.
Yeah, 75-59. Yeah.
We got that one.
Tough loss for the Lady Raiders as they fall to 6-2 with that loss to Audie Crooks and the Cyclones. Men's basketball action over the weekend. On Friday, Tennessee Tech traveled to Memorial Gym and took an 87-56 loss to the Commodores. It was Belmont bouncing back from a couple of tough losses at the Cancun Challenge with an 83-74 win over Gardner-Webb. On Saturday, East Tennessee State defeated Austin Peay 79-57. Lipscomb with an 82-44 win over Alabama A&M. Cumberland downs Reinhardt by 10, 88-78. On Sunday, Tennessee State took it on the chin at the Gentry Center, 92-74 against visiting UNC Asheville. Middle Tennessee State goes to Birmingham, puts out the Blazers, 76-69. Cumberland with a 84-75 win over Tennessee Wesleyan. And in college football action of local interest over the weekend, it was Tennessee 36, Vanderbilt 23, as we mentioned earlier, and we'll mention again. Florida International and Middle Tennessee State in the season finale for both teams. The Blue Raiders fall 35-24 on the road. And in FCS opening round playoff action, Tennessee State goes out to Montana, puts up a game fight, but falls 41-27, ending their season at 9-4. Great year for the Tigers, despite the loss.
Hell of a year for Coach George and the Tigers. NBA action. The Grizzlies are hot at home over the weekend, winning 120-109 on Friday versus the Pelicans. And yesterday, scoring 136-121 versus Indiana. The Preds, not as much, dropping a Friday matinee 3-2 to the Lightning, and then falling on Saturday 3-2 to the Minnesota Wild.
Were both of those in overtime?
Both in overtime, yes.
Okay. Man.
Tough sledding for the Preds, who continue to slip at the Western Conference there. NFL action we mentioned at the start of the show was the Commanders hot early, and the Commanders rolling to a 42-19 victory over the Tennessee Titans in D.C.
High school basketball tonight. These are all double headers. All 6 o'clock starts as Friendship Christian travels to Christ Presbyterian Academy. Sycamore is at Cheatham County. Cross-county rivalry there. Eagleville goes to Community. Huntland is at Culleoka. FC Boyd Senior Christian hosting Franklin Road Christian. White House travels to Lawson. Clarksville Northeast is going to Rockvale. Ugh, that's a heck of a trip on a school day. McEwen is at Santa Fe. Summit goes to Shelbyville. Spring Hill hosts Giles County. And don't have a time for this one, but no reason to think it's not at 6 o'clock as Summertown goes to Perry County. Mount Pleasant plays at Hampshire at 6 o'clock also. We've got it listed as a girls-only game, but I'm pretty sure we're probably going to come across the boys. No boys game. I'm pretty sure this is a doubleheader. Boys only. Ezel Harding is at Knowledge Academies. That game tips at 6:30. Mount Juliet Christian is at South Haven Christian. This is definitely a boys-only game because Mount Juliet Christian does not have a girls' team. That game is at 7:30, and The final game of the Thanksgiving weekend in the National Football League has the Browns going to Denver, taking on the Broncos. That's a 7:15 kick. You can see it on ESPN. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Brought to you as always by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill here in Columbia. Be sure to check out their delicious daily deli lunch items available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And, you know, if you were watching men's college basketball in the 80s and 90s, and, you know, I know a lot of our listeners and watchers weren't, but the name Louis Carnesecca, you know, strikes a chord with you. One of the great coaches in the great Big East Conference at St. John's, 526 wins over 24 seasons, 1992 inductee into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Coach Carnesecca passed away over the weekend at the age of 99. It was announced Saturday by St. John's that he had passed. Again, 526 wins, 1985 Final Four appearance. I think that's the year that the Big East put 3 teams in the Final Four. And I hated the Big East because it really kind of felt like thug ball. I mean, they were the only conference at one time to go to 6 fouls. It took 6 fouls to foul out of a ball game in a Big East game at one point. But and you can't deny the impact that they had on college basketball during that stretch from basically from the inception of the conference until conference realignment started up in Pitt and Syracuse, and folks like that started going elsewhere for football because the Big East wasn't a football conference. I mean, they played football, but they were built on basketball.
Yeah, tragic loss, and like you said, crazy runs for not just St. John's, obviously, but also that entire conference, which was totally unique, you know. And I'm going to remember, Coach, obviously the saga of the sweater, you know, and I mean, some massive showdowns versus John Thompson and those great Georgetown teams over the years. I mean, just this was one that everybody in some shape, form, or fashion was kind of talking about over the weekend because that was a guy and a coach and a program that kind of transcended college basketball in many respects.
Looking at the article on CBS Sports, you had John Thompson, like you said, at Georgetown. You had Jim Boeheim at Syracuse. You had P.J. Carlesimo at Seton Hall. You had Raleigh Massimino at Villanova. You had Jim Calhoun just getting started at UConn. And Lou Carnesecca was as great, if not greater, than any of those guys head to head. 18-21 seasons, back-to-back 30-win seasons in the mid-'80s. St. John's went to the postseason every year that he coached the program. They also went to the Elite Eight in 79 and in 91, in addition to that Final Four appearance in 1985. The arena on the St. John's campus is named in his honor. Putting him alongside folks like Fog Allen, Adolph Rupp, and Dean Smith, among others. And as you said, the sweaters, man, were top notch. So, again, former St. John's coach Lou Carnesecca passed away at the age of 99 over the weekend, and you know, just want to pay our respects to his family and the St. John's community on this occasion of his passing. They were, those are some great times for basketball right there. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company Studios, we will be joined by, again, the biggest University of Tennessee fan west of the Mississippi, Christopher Gabriel, as we look back at UT Vanderbilt and look ahead to what's next for the Volunteers. Stay tuned after this.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Well, we went all out for you this year, didn't we, little girl? Yep, we got you what you wanted with all the bells and whistles.
A brand new car?
Let's go check it out. Come on. We're here.
Oh my gosh, we're going to the garage. I got a car.
Yep, let's get in here. Let me show you what's going on.
Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Duggar, got your 18 SEER heat pump with your ultraviolet home treatment system.
I cannot believe it. Thank you.
Yes! Give the gift of clean air this year. Merry Christmas from the Busy Bee family.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
He shoots, and he scores!
The Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're both coming to you from the Lee Company Studios. Me in Columbia, Wade at his home in Pulaski, and we are pleased to be joined by the biggest Tennessee fan west of the Mississippi, Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno, host of the CG program. Christopher, excuse me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, boys. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. I'm told that I might be having some issues, but I'm kind of outmanned here in the studio by myself. We are a work in progress, but yes, we can hear you, and that's what's important.
I can hear you fine. Can I just first of all, I hope you and your families had a great Thanksgiving. We certainly did. Can I comment on the Big East for a second? Louis Carnesecca.
Sure.
I was living in New York City back then and in the 80s. And the first thing that I did every year at MSG in the fall was get tickets for the Big East tournament. Those nights in that tournament were unbelievable with, as you mentioned, Louis, PJ Carlissimo, Jim Boeheim, Raleigh Massimino, John Thompson. Those games were wars. And the 1985 St. John's team, think about this team. They had Chris Mullen, Mark Jackson, Walter Berry, and Bill Wennington. They got all the way to the Final Four in Lexington at Rupp Arena when they still played the Final Four where they should play it, in a college basketball arena. And Georgetown took them out. And that was the same year that, remember, Villanova shot something like 82% in the championship game and took down Georgetown. But those games were wars. It was always a must-see photo op at center court when Georgetown and St. John's would play at the Garden, and you'd have John Thompson towering over Louis in his great sweater. Those games, I'll never forget those games.
It was fantastic. It was a great time, man. Yeah, and your firsthand recollections of that are appreciated. Thanks for chipping in with that. How were you feeling 5 minutes into the game Saturday?
I was ready to stab myself in the head with an ice pick. That might be excessive, but that's kind of where I was at. When I saw that young man run the kickoff back and didn't see anybody in a white jersey, and then the fumble from Dylan Sampson, and it's 14-0, and it's funny because it was really upsetting, really frustrating. There was a thought that went through my head. Okay, here we go again. The Vols get on the big national stage. It's a meet the moment game, right? It's one of those, we've talked about that on your show, but I had a strange sense of calm. I just kind of looked at the body language, and I'm sure you guys did the same thing. Looked at Nico, looked at the guys, saw hype, everybody was silent. Nobody was losing it. Nobody was tense. Nobody looked like they were concerned. I'm sure they were, but to watch the poise and the confidence that Nico showed, I really felt like he and this whole team, maybe the whole program, took a step on Saturday. And we can say in past years, well, it's Vandy. Well, we can't say that this year because they beat Alabama. They were in a position to beat Texas. This is a good football team. They're not a great football team, but they're a good football team. Pavia is a real battler. He's a warrior. It reminds me a lot of the quarterback on Georgia Tech that nearly beat Georgia, last week. But I think more than anything else, this was so important for this program to get over the hump, if they did get over the hump, on going and playing a tough road game, albeit not at night, and not only surviving, but thriving and really putting it to them. I mean, they could have beaten Vandy by a lot more if they wouldn't have made a mistake here or there. So first 5 minutes were very different than the next 55.
At one point, I tweeted that game felt very Georgia Tech-ish in reference to that game the night before. Like you said, Haynes King played his fanny off. He single-handedly pretty much kept Georgia in that ball game. 8 overtimes. I told somebody I felt tired and I didn't play a snap. That game was crazy. But that UT Vanderbilt game kind of took on some of that feel early on before they did get some things going in their direction. And so, like you said, they kind of got over the hump there. You feel like they have secured a spot in the college football playoff at 10-2. I guess the question becomes now, because you're never satisfied, do they get a home game? Or are they a top 8 seed?
Yeah, that is the question that we all have today. And you've seen any number of national guys batting this around. And the preponderance of national guys that I've seen have said, no. Ohio State deserves to be above Tennessee. First of all, yes, Tennessee's in. The Vols are in. It really is. Are they going to be ranked 6th or 7th? Are they going to be seeded because of the 2 teams that get the byes, 8th or 9th? Listen, obviously I'm a Tennessee fan, but like you both, I cover college football and I could put my objective hat on. I have a problem fundamentally with a lot of these national guys who used to be local guys immediately just giving a pass to Ohio State. One guy today said, well, you know what? The Michigan loss for Ohio State, this was the phrase, it was a wash. You can cancel that out with the Arkansas loss. No, you can't. That's faulty logic. That is the height. That is the height of faulty.
I mean, they're both losses.
They're both losses, but you're talking about one team going on the road as a 13-point favorite at night in a hostile environment on October 5th versus a team playing at home, a 20.5 favorite against a 5-loss team, and you lose. This is where I think some of the metrics need to go out. You want to make a case for Ohio State being above UT, have at it. You can make a case here and there, but if they want to say, well, they played Indiana and Penn State, I think then we need to examine Indiana and Penn State and exactly how good are they, number one. Number two, the committee likes to tell us we like to group teams, the 1-loss teams, the 2-loss teams, the 3-loss teams, and then they'll tell us it matters how you're playing lately. Well, if there's anything that they've been consistent about, it's that they've been inconsistent. And look, if the Vols end up having to go and play at Ohio State or play a road game against whomever, let's go. Let's go and let's play that game and let's go and see Tennessee go win that game. But you cannot tell me in good faith that the Ohio State University losing at home to a dreadful Michigan team. This is not Michigan from Jim Harbaugh and Blake Corum and J.J. McCarthy last year. Losing at home is somehow on the same level as the Vols losing at Arkansas. And then we get into the name equity part of this. And look, for Tennessee fans or Tennessee media, anybody talking about this, it ends up sounding like sour grapes. And that to me is an insult to people's intelligence, because for anybody to deny that there is name equity in play when you're talking about Ohio State or Alabama in particular, Clemson for a while, but they've sort of been moved to the mid or back burner. Ohio State and Alabama have earned that name equity. But at some point, you have to say, I'm going to look at the team. I'm going to look at how they're playing lately. And also the other factor is, and we all know this playoff is a TV show. That's what this is. And if you really want a great show, along with the other factors that are involved, you are going to consider the difference in a night game in Neyland and a night game in any of those other places. But that might be the second or third or fourth consideration. For me, Tennessee gets the nod over Ohio State. They dropped Georgia quite a bit when Georgia lost at Ole Miss. Why should this be any different?
I find it
as you were saying all that, Christopher, I'm thinking, Wade is sitting right here. And as big a Tennessee fan as you are, Wade is probably equally a huge Michigan fan. And so listening to the real comments about Michigan, I think was probably still a little tough for Mr. Neely to hear. But
man, they got 5 losses, man. I made peace with the season after they got smoked by 30 to Texas. Come on now,
Wade.
Okay.
They haven't had a quarterback all year.
Forgive my interruption. I cover Fresno State, and that was a ball game with 6 minutes to go, and it should never have been a ball game. But I think that, with all due respect to Michigan, great school, great program, great stadium, great everything, this has not been the best year for them.
No, and that's what's going to be fascinating to me is, to your point, almost all projections, and we'll get tomorrow, and then we'll get what comes out over the weekend, and then there will be no more discussion. But all the projections have Tennessee and Ohio State projected basically playing each other in that 8-9 matchup. I did find one stray, website that's got Georgia and Tennessee. But you want to talk about a ratings bonanza, no matter which team is hosting. Yeah. If you give Ohio State and Tennessee, who've only met one, maybe 2 times in the history of their programs in football, if you put those two, talk about a marquee, sellable, big game, to your point, television show product on the very first. I mean, heck, make that the Friday night game. There's 1 Friday night game and 3 Saturday games. Make that the Friday night game and watch the ratings just absolutely light up. Win, lose, or draw, as a neutral fan, I am salivating thinking about those 2 teams getting it on.
Well, a couple of thoughts come to mind. Number one, you're a Michigan man. You're not neutral. I think you understand. We all understand that. You're not looking at Ohio State wanting Ohio State to win that game. I love you, Wade, but you can't tell me that. But to your point, you're absolutely right. This is the game. I mean, the ABC couldn't ask for a better matchup. Two traditional powerhouse programs. The Vols have been off the radar, admittedly, for a long time. They are back. This would be phenomenal, whether it was in Ohio Stadium or in Neyland Stadium. You can't ask for anything. People aren't going to be tuning in for Arizona State and whomever, with all due respect to the Sun Devils.
No, Notre Dame, SMU doesn't really move the needle for me like even Tennessee, Georgia in a rematch would. So
yeah,
that's what's going to be fascinating. And, you know, Ohio State is going to be a real kind of interesting case study. There's also that other team that Tennessee loves to hate that's in the SEC. They're going to be an interesting case study in terms of if maybe Alabama sneaks into the playoff. I think this is going to be a very fascinating, and that's why I've said a few weeks ago now, in a weird way, I'm glad that Michigan was so bad early that they're completely removed from the equation, because now I get to just sit back and watch and see what happens. Because if I was investing in any capacity, I'd be on pins and needles, and I'd be just like you guys, living and dying with every single projection that every website releases, because it is going to be sublime television, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And you know, I made this point, and I wrote this in social media on Twitter, X, whatever we call it these days, I guess X. There are 115 voters in the coaches combined, coaches poll and AP. Both have Tennessee ranked above Ohio State. Both are invested in watching college football throughout the year. You have a room of 13 members on this committee, and if they decide to go with Ohio State above Tennessee, Wade Manuel will go out there and with some nonsensical, I mean, he's a learned man, but I'm sorry, the man will look there at us deadpan and tell us stuff that is going to go contrary to what 115 voters in two polls that we follow before the season even starts. He's going to basically be saying, he and his committee will be saying, we know a little bit more about football and about all of this than they do. And I think fundamentally that's problematic.
Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little Tennessee football. And yeah, you know, watching Ward Manuel come out week to week and espouse whatever theory it is to explain how the Big Ten is so well represented in positions that would ensure them of home games in the 12-team playoff and that kind of thing has gotten kind of tough to watch. Excuse me. And you know, as you said, I feel like I say that kind of objectively. It's interesting, again, when you think about Indiana and you think about Penn State. And I'll tell you, I've been very intrigued by Indiana over the course of this season, just with the success that they've had. Now, they've had that success against not a great schedule. That's no fault of theirs. I mean, they've beaten who was in front of them. That's all you can do. But in a situation like this is a little bit of a beauty contest, and Indiana's schedule is not as attractive as some other teams that are being considered alongside them. And at some point, strength of schedule has got to come into play here.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that's a key factor that needs to be weighed, and that is, we can criticize teams for who they play, but you said it. You said it, Mo. You play the teams that are in front of you. So at what point does a committee, whether you're talking about March Madness, whether you're talking about baseball, NCAA D1 baseball, or this, at what point, with all the metrics they have available to them, at what point do they say the eye test has to matter a little bit? How does that team look? How does that team perform against whatever level of competition is in front of them? In the case of Indiana, I think they're probably a little better than a lot of Vols fans are giving them credit for. Oh, we're going to mop them up if we play them. Well, I don't know that that's the case. Mm-hmm. This is a good football team. The question is how good. You look at Penn State, and year after year, they can't get, under James Franklin, they cannot get over the hump of beating the biggest teams in that conference. Are they a good team? Heck yeah. But again, they lost a home game to either Michigan, a team named Michigan, or Ohio State. And so you look at Penn State and you say, well, exactly who have they beaten this year? And then their fans are looking at Tennessee and saying, well, who have you beaten? Well, Tennessee beat Alabama, and that's a pretty good win as a starting point. And then NC State, that looked like it was kind of a dog win, but then you look at what NC State did against Georgia Tech. You look at Oklahoma, what they did with Alabama. We can do this ad nauseum over and over and over. Ultimately, what does it look like? What makes the most sense? Because I think sometimes, and this is the crux of my point. It only took me 25 minutes to get to it. The crux of my point is sometimes I think the committee relies so much on every piece of paper that they can have and every metric that's shoved out of the computer. They're not letting their common sense come into play, fellas.
As Wade told me a couple of weeks ago, we know you're going to land the airplane at some point, Christopher, so we weren't too worried about it there. But, here's the thing. After Saturday, the question of who have you played as it's applied to Indiana, as it's applied to Penn State, if you get the right or the wrong outcome in Atlanta, that question can be asked of Texas as well.
There's no question about it. I've neglected to even bring Texas into the discussion, and there's no doubt. I mean, they have played a schedule that is suspect. Again, that schedule was probably made 6 to 8 years ago, and so you don't know what's going to happen. I think if we look at this a little bit more from 30,000 feet, I think it tells all of us and these schools that if you want to avoid that as a bullet point in the room where the 13 people are meeting, maybe you need to not buy out a game against a big opponent that's non-conference. Maybe you need to buy out a Mercer, a UTEP, a Chattanooga, and instead put in, if you're an SEC team, if you're Tennessee over the years has generally they've had home and homes with Notre Dame. They've played Cal, UCLA, Oregon, and so on. I'd like to see more of those kinds of matchups because the fans deserve it. The players deserve it. The networks would love it. And if everybody is on the same plane, if everybody is on the same wavelength of, okay, we're all playing at least one, maybe two difficult non-conference games, then we're all working the same way. And suddenly we get a better idea of what those 2 or even 3 loss teams look like legitimately.
I think so. And, the other interesting point, yes, these schedules are made far in advance, but man, and I know Sig didn't make the schedule when he arrived in Indiana, but how badly do you think they wish maybe deep down they would have kept Louisville on the schedule this year instead of buying them out and playing Western Illinois? Talk about another marquee win that could potentially thrust them further up these rankings right
Especially given what Louisville did this past weekend.
Right.
Well,
it's done all season.
Yeah, and of course you never want to take for granted the Western Illinois. I think the Broncos or the Bronco Billies.
Leathernecks.
I knew it was somewhere in that region. You never want to just sleep on them. But your point is absolutely correct. How much better would that Louisville game be on their schedule? I mean, you said it than Western Illinois.
I mean, there's a million ways to look at this, and this is what's going to be fascinating. And I still get the feeling, looking at the Vegas lines for all this weekend, man, there are a lot of narrow spreads on these games. And obviously, that's just Vegas's lens on that. But I get the feeling that still there's going to be 1 or 2 more dominoes that are still to fall before this thing is even finalized later this weekend.
Yeah, Wade, you're absolutely right. And this is a point that we haven't discussed yet. I'm curious what you guys think. The committee, and I think rightfully so, said that a team in a championship game will not just drop out of the playoff if they're up there. And I get that. But the initial comment that was made from Ward Manuel, and forgive me, I don't have his exact words in front of me, but it suggested that a team potentially wouldn't drop. Well, that to me is sheer folly. Let's just say Texas or Georgia gets beaten by 3 touchdowns. They have no business staying ranked right where they're at. If Oregon just annihilates Penn State, are you telling me that they're going to stay? Where are they at right now? Penn State's 3rd. Are you telling me that Penn State's going to stay at 3? They can't possibly do that.
I agree. And I was kind of honestly shocked when I heard those words because that's been the big debate, right? Is do you really, quote unquote, want to play in the championship game? And then all of a sudden we got word that, you want to play because now you have a chance to win and obviously you get a bye. But also it sounds like if you're not going to be penalized for a loss, but I don't see any way you're not going to potentially be penalized in some capacity.
No, I agree. And it's interesting how this has worked out for Tennessee, right? You've got Dante Thornton who out with an injury. You have Dylan Sampson, who was a little sore. I am glad that for that reason alone, those reasons alone, that they're not playing this weekend in Atlanta, because they're going to have about 3 weeks or so to heal up. And Tennessee, I think we all would expect they're going to be completely or mostly healthy when that first round game comes along.
As healthy as you can be at this time of the year. Absolutely. Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno with us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little Tennessee football, and I'm sure we will have him talking a little bit more here between now and the kickoff of the college football playoffs. Christopher, we appreciate you coming in with us, man, and we'll catch up.
Fellas, it's always a great pleasure. When you put the bat signal up, I'm ready for you.
We got you. Be safe. We'll talk to you. When we continue here on Main Street Sports Today, we will continue talking college football. Thanksgiving weekend wasn't great for a handful of coaches, unfortunately, as the holiday break got a little longer for them. We'll talk more about that when we return to the Lee Company studios after this.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. The Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios. I'm here in Columbia, HQ. Wade is at his home in Pulaski, and let's continue the college football talk because, we talked about UT Vanderbilt. We talked a little bit about Georgia Tech, 8 overtimes the Bulldogs had to go in Athens to get past the Yellow Jackets in the latest installment in clean old-fashioned hate. I think those two teams were too tired to really hate each other by the end of that one.
Yeah, no doubt. Insane game that it just felt inevitable that Georgia was going to win. But then when you get to like overtime number 2 and you're like, maybe. And then you get to overtime number 5 and you're like, maybe. And then, yeah, they just eventually somehow just gutted out the win. And an embrace between the two coaches at the end, which was certainly in stark contrast to a lot of games across the country this weekend. It was cool to see. It was an epic game. And that's the last game that's going to be played on a campus site for a while because they're getting ready to move that game, I think, to the Bins for a couple of years. And, man, if that's how it's going to go out and, you know, you lose that appeal of being on a campus like that, at least we were treated to what was won for the ages in a game that I really going into it didn't think would end up in that capacity.
No, not at all. I think Georgia Tech would love coming off of that game to take it back to Bobby Dodd one last time. But like you said, it'll be at the Bends going forward. But, man, you know, we got some great college football over this weekend. Mississippi State playing Ole Miss a lot closer than we anticipated prior to that Georgia Tech game. All of Saturday's flag planting antics.
And flag throwing.
And flag throwing, that's right, yes. And Syracuse throwing a fly in the ointment over in the ACC with that win over Miami with former Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord engineering that one, playing one of the better games of his season in knocking off the Hurricanes and Cam Ward. And, you know, given Will Howard's performance in that Ohio State-Michigan game, a lot of Buckeye fans got to be wondering, you know, this is your king? So,
yeah, great.
Tough on a lot of fronts for Ohio State, I think.
Tough on a lot of fronts, and, you know, we could get into the weeds on that later in the week, but Chris made up a great point. Something's up with Howard. He was dinged up very badly in that game, and I know they do the due diligence on the sideline, but somebody said that it was okay for him to come back in the game. And the moment he came back in the game, everything changed. Their scheme changed. They went very run heavy, which as a Michigan fan I was cackling with glee because that's the one thing that Michigan's good at this year is stuffing the run. And it would be fascinating to see if Ohio State was somehow playing in the Big Ten championship game this week, if Howard would be able to go, because he was not the same QB. But yes, everything was coming up anti-Ohio State this weekend. And you know what? I'm okay with that.
I believe, again, McCord was okay with that as well. He has thrown for 4,326 yards and 29 touchdowns, most yards of any quarterback in Division I, the fourth most touchdown passes of any quarterback in Division I. And again, Syracuse coming up with the big win to pretty well douse Miami's hopes of a playoff berth, you would think. I don't think the ACC gets, I don't know that they get multiple teams, but, you know, other than SMU and Clemson, Miami is at least number 3. So you can't really think the ACC gets more than 2 teams, can you?
No, Miami seems pretty much done, barring just nuclear winter happening this weekend. They need massive, massive help. And talk about stubbing your toe at the most inopportune time. Everything was there for them. And if you were riding the Miami bandwagon all year, it came crashing down. But if you were cheering against Miami all year or kind of thought that they were a little bit of a paper tiger, so to speak, then you were validated in big fashion, because that is I know Syracuse is a good team and definitely much improved, but man, that is a ugly loss in the biggest of stages for Miami.
A lot of conferences made some money over the weekend as the Big Ten got into both Ohio State and Michigan's pockets following their post-game antics following the 13-10 Wolverines victory as Michigan players tried to plant their flag at the 50-yard line. And, you know, at the time of the fight, I did not realize what had sparked it. I can't really be too terribly upset with Ohio State for trying to defend their field, but at the same time, win the ball game and you don't have to deal with any of that.
I mean, right? That's the point number one. Point number two, this is what we love. It's rivalry week for a reason. And there was a reason that it wasn't just Michigan and Ohio State that we saw doing that this weekend. I mean, we saw Arizona State planting the trident out at the middle of the field. I mean, that's what this week is for. And if you're kind of, yes, you know, you don't want obviously physical harm or,
Pepper
criminal
spray.
activity to be occurring.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want it to that, you know, I mean, I'm giving the Columbus PD a little bit of benefit of the doubt here. You hope they did their due diligence there, but yeah, you don't want it to come to that. But everything else, yeah, give me all of that and then some. That's exactly what I sign up for when I tune in on Rivalry Week.
It is Rivalry Week. And as the Big Ten, again, fined both Ohio State and Michigan $100K each.
That's a game check for Bryce Underwood. We got to keep that money close to the purse strings there.
Over in the Atlantic Coast Conference, NC State, North Carolina, Virginia, and Virginia Tech all got reprimanded as NC State tried to plant its flag over in Chapel Hill after that 35-30 victory. And Virginia and Virginia Tech did not wait till the end of the game. They got after it prior to the game. The unsportsmanlike behavior that was displayed is unacceptable and tarnishes the passionate on-field play between these institutions, said the ACC. The funds will be placed into a postgraduate scholarship account. Yeah. Again, it's rivalry week. What do you want?
Yeah,
So,
and that was the best one when the North Carolina guy just chucks the flag for NC State. Says, you know what? Not only are you not throwing this,
you're not getting it back.
I'm tossing this bad boy. So I mean, yeah, and I mean that's exactly what you sign up for. It obviously, and it was funny, you know, Gus Johnson, I love Gus, but man, he was selling so hard for Ohio State. He was just really tugging at everybody's heartstrings, playing the have some class and sportsmanship angle. And I'm like, come on, Gus. I mean, get out of here with that. This is rivalry week, man. And so it is what it is. And by all accounts, Michigan, Ohio State this year, they usually fight before the game. They usually fight during the game. There was none of that this year. They saved it all up for after the game. And, man, there were some crazy, crazy moments from this weekend, but that's exactly what you tune in for, and that's what makes this sport so compelling, I think. The games actually mean something deep down, and you're playing at the end of the day for a lot more. No matter what era we're in, NIL or not, you're still playing for a lot of pride, and that's what made it so cool to see in my mind.
Absolutely. Power 4 coaching vacancies now at 4. We talked about Mac Brown and his departure at North Carolina. By the way, Freddie Kitchens apparently will coach North Carolina in whatever bowl game that they go to. So Mac Brown is somewhere between Chapel Hill and Cookeville now, I guess. I'm not sure. But in addition to the Tar Heels, Purdue, West Virginia, and it took me a minute to remember Central Florida is a power school now as a member of the Big 12. But Purdue, West Virginia, and UCF all with vacancies as well. Purdue dumping their guy after 2 seasons. Ryan Walters, 1-11 this season. He had already gotten rid of his offensive coordinator. Well, now y'all can share boxes. I don't know. West Virginia getting rid of Neil Brown after 6 seasons. The Mountaineers of the Big 12 as well, pretty much a constant in the top 25, but they were never in the AP top 25 over the 6 years that Neil Brown was at the top of that program. So Mountaineers expecting better and looking for better, and already a name that has been attached to that coaching search is Jimbo Fisher. And I will ask the same question that I asked when he left Texas A&M. Dude's got $70 million. Why is he going to come back and coach?
Yeah.
Stay at the house.
You'd have a hard time getting me back in there, but we shall see.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, Gus Malzahn has left, again, Central Florida to become offensive coordinator at Florida State, which really strikes me as odd. I mean, is he sitting there waiting on them to pull the trigger on Mike Norvell or what? What is, I don't know. That's that one kind of was a little mind-boggling for me.
Yeah, a bit of a head scratcher. And Gus, it's no doubt that he covets being a head coach, but man, he has had some electric runs as offensive coordinator. So my thought was twofold. My thought is, number one, man, Florida State's offense is immediately going to get better for next season. And my second thought was, to your point, Gus ain't just moving without some sort of plan in place here. Mm-hmm. Maybe you get the offense back right, but the defense is going to take a hit next year, and maybe Florida State does decide to pull the trigger. Well, hey, my offense was good. Why don't you just hire me? Little 3D chess being played there, perhaps, under our nose.
Little business taking place there, as you like to say. That's going to do it for hour number one of the Monday Mirror here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios for hour number two, we'll talk a little NFL. Stay tuned after the break.
Nashville's Nutcracker returns to TPAC this December, presented by Nashville Ballet. This holiday season, audiences will journey with Clara and the Nutcracker Prince through Nashville's history and the land of sweets. Tickets at NashvilleBallet.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Wild. No, not Wild. Not Wild. That's in a couple of days. Hour number 2 of the Monday Mirror here on Main Street Sports Today starts right now. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. I'm coming to you from the Lee Company Studios at HQ here in Columbia. Wade is at his home in Pulaski. Let's talk a little NFL. I will tell you that some stats are kept differently depending on what level of ball that you're dealing with. So I wasn't quite sure how the NFL was going to handle what took place during the Buffalo-San Francisco game last night when, well, watch this.
It's to Shakir, completed. This is behind Cooper, who brought it in, pitched it back to Allen, who's going to go to the goal line and get in! No! Spectacular touchdown!
A little variation on the hook and lateral in the snow as Buffalo took care of San Francisco last night. But I learned Amari Cooper gets credit for the catch and no yardage on that play. Josh Allen gets credit for all of the yardage and no catch. So when you look in the box score for the Buffalo-San Francisco game from last night, you're going to see Josh Allen, 0 catches, 7 yards, 1 touchdown. Zany. I mean, it's past wild and wacky. It's just, but otherwise, it becomes a whole mess. So that's pretty clean cut from high school to college and into the pros on that one. But it's definitely different to, you know, how does he have yardage with no catch? Well,
yeah, man, that play right there was tugging at my old SID heartstrings. Stat nerd at heart. I mean, that was actually, it was giving me a little PTSD is what it was doing. So I didn't want to think about that, but crazy play. And then right after that too, when Collinsworth on the broadcast is doing the math and he puts the fantasy football implications together, getting credit for all of that, kind of the whole enchilada, if you will. They put Josh Allen on her last night, man, you were loving it. And one of the zanier plays. And I mean, taking it back to Mariota in the 2017 playoffs was the last time that we had seen the quarterback score on a play like that. So it was wild. It was in the snow. I mean, everybody was just having fun. Buffalo was thriving last night while San Francisco was getting pummeled.
Man, a tough night for San Francisco in more ways than one, not just the loss, but in addition to getting drilled 35-10, it sounds as if they have lost Christian McCaffrey, who was late getting to the team with an Achilles situation. It appears that he injured a knee ligament, not his anterior cruciate ligament, but his PCL. I don't know if that's posterior cruciate, but at any rate, yes, it is the posterior cruciate ligament, and it seems that he's done. So things went from bad to worse for the 49ers last night.
Yeah, they were pretty much already in the season from hell, but last night officially confirmed it. It's just one of them years where just nothing lines up and things go from bad to worse, and any playoff hopes, they're still alive, but man, it is going to be really, really tough for them going forward. And it is it's just one of those, you just have to chalk it up. I mean, season from hell definition right there for the 49ers, who were on the cusp of winning the Super Bowl and then come right back with sit where we are here now in early December.
5-7, they're only 2 games back of NFC West leader Seattle, but they are in last place in the division. So, I mean, they got some folks to climb over to get to the top, and you feel like that's the only way they get in is if they win the division, because, I mean, Detroit is kind of making a mockery of the whole thing. Then you've got the Vikings and the Eagles each at 10-2. The Eagles atop the East at 10-2, but you know, there's a lot of folks between playoff contention and the 49ers at 5-7. So again, and it's tough. Jordan Mason, the Gallatin native, has played really well for them, but you know, there's only so many Christian McCaffreys out there, and so when you lose one of those, it's tough.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, last night too, I mean, he's having his best game since his return. And that's what makes it even more frustrating is he's off to a great start. They're trailing, but, you know, they're in the game. Things are looking like, you know, the game is still very up in the air. And then boom, and he goes down. And when you see him go down like that, everybody's saying, oh, no. And then he runs to the tunnel, and that's a wrap. And, you know, we won't be seeing him, I don't think, the rest of the season. And so Mason's going to have to batten down the hatches. We just saw Purdy coming back from injury. He couldn't do nothing. Hard to expect him to really do much in those conditions, especially when they're trailing at that point by 2 scores. I mean, like I said, it has been a tough sled for them, and almost undoubtedly the end of the road for them. They still got they do get the Bears coming to town this week, which more on them, I guess, in a moment. We'll see what happens. But you still got to play the Rams. You still got to play the Lions. And you still got to play the Cardinals in the final week of the season. It does not look like it's going to be playoff time for the 49ers this year.
Yeah, you're not going to get a whole lot of help from the schedule for sure. Saquon Barkley continues to put together what looks like potentially an MVP season, 107 rushing yards and a touchdown in Philadelphia's 24-19 win over Baltimore yesterday, And, you know, matchup of 2 of the top running backs in the league, 2 guys both in their first year with their new teams, as Derrick Henry went for 82 yards, no scores on 19 carries in that loss for Baltimore. And man, I saw a tweet from allegedly, John Gruden yesterday. And these days, you can never be sure, I guess. But Gruden talking about the season that Barkley's having, the season that Henry's having, the season that Josh Jacobs is having, and says running backs matter. You know, talking about the records for those 3 guys' current teams and the records for their teams that they were with last year. And we've mentioned this on this show before, but clearly it bears mentioning again. Derrick Henry would not be having the season he's having with Baltimore here.
No.
And the fact, I'm assuming that tweet was actually from a former National Football League coach. And the fact that he doesn't recognize that, or maybe he's just gassing something up. I don't know, but.
Well, I interpret that as, you know, everybody talks about how much of a passing league that it is. And the way I just interpret that is, hey, the running backs, I mean, at the end of the day, if you can run the football, you're still able to have success in this league. Sure. It's not quite drop back and throw 50 times like I think some folks might potentially believe. When I hear that, that's the way I'm kind of interpreting that. But yeah, to your point, also, those guys aren't having those seasons if they're in their previous spots as well, most likely.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah. Again, Philadelphia downs Baltimore 24-19. And are we seeing the end of Justin Tucker?
Yes.
Whew. Man. What did he miss? 2 field goals and an extra point?
Yeah, you know, he has been trending, and, you know, he hasn't been cut, at least as of last I checked before this segment. But he had 2 or 3 weeks in a row where it kind of looked like, okay, he's getting back to form. He's getting back to form because he's been bad all year. And then yesterday, obviously, in the biggest game of the season to this point, just laid an absolute leg. And like I said, he's got so much grace built up that I didn't even necessarily think that they would cut him today. But usually you see those moves come down pretty quick. But yeah, my man is washed, unfortunately. And it does not look good. And it's kind of weird to see. I heard that last week or 2 weeks ago when one of his previous misses, he officially relinquished. He's no longer the most accurate place kicker in NFL history by missing as many as he's missed this year. So it's not as if he can even retire at the end of this year and still, well, at least I got a record to my name. No, he's kind of going down in flames, unfortunately.
I mean, when your guy misses 2 field goals and an extra point, what's that? That's 7 points, and you lost by 5. And
Kicks matter, as Gruden would say.
As Keith Bullock likes to say, you got one job, bro. It's tough.
Yeah, and I mean, Baltimore, as explosive as they have been, and as many games as they put up 30-plus points and teams that they've blown out, when the weather gets cold and when the games get tough, especially in the postseason, you got Tucker, who's been your absolute ace in the hole. Don't even have to think about it. You send him out from 60-plus yards, and you feel pretty dang good about it. Now, all of a sudden, that makes you rethink some things, and that is a luxury that good teams do have in their back pocket, and that is seemingly a luxury now the Ravens no longer possess.
Clearly.
They're now 2 behind Pittsburgh in that division.
Speaking of Pittsburgh, 44-38 over the Bengals yesterday improves them to 9-3 on the season. Their 21st straight non-losing season, which ties an NFL record set by the Cowboys from 65 to 85. 21 straight years that the Steelers have not posted a losing record. Most of those, 18 under Mike Tomlin. So whatever else you got to say about Mike Tomlin, just be sure that you say that he's never had a losing record.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude is consistent. I mean, he's sneaking into your Coach of the Year candidate discussion this year, and that was a massive win for them after laying an egg in the snow game versus the Browns a couple of weeks ago. With Cincinnati having to leave everything on the line, that was a big win for them. And if you told me that Pittsburgh was going to give up 38 points, I would say no shot in Hades that they would come out of there with a win. But wow, that was an impressive victory. Russ goes for over 400 yards. Pittsburgh showing us a different side of Steelers ball. And that was a game that kind of made me, stroke my chin a little bit and say, this Steelers team maybe is a little more something than just a great, great defense and a pretty good at times offense. That was an impressive victory yesterday as Cincinnati is happy trails now.
Let Russ cook. The Texans did not let Trevor Lawrence cook yesterday evening, and the Jaguars kind of took that personal. Azeez Al-Shaair with a unfortunate hit. I don't necessarily want to call it dirty, but there are plenty that are. Lawrence goes around the left side for yardage and then slides, and Al-Shaair got him high, bounced his head off the turf. Here we go.
Represents so many special people.
No, there's no doubt that Trevor represents them well. And oh my, that'll be Al-Shaair, who's flagged for the big hit on the slide, and that's going to start a little bit of a scrum afterwards as the Jaguars come in to protect their QB.
Yeah, that was tough to watch.
That was tough to watch. And again, man, his head bounced off. He was concussed. He has let people know today that he's feeling better today, and that's great to hear. But we're kind of waiting on how the NFL is going to address that hit by the former Tennessee Titan there. The Jags know how they'd like to address it and went about trying to immediately, as you saw there. And, under those circumstances, that's exactly what you want to see, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the team sticking up, obviously, for their quarterback. And, yeah, rightly or wrongly, that's in a weird way, that's encouraging to see that your team is still fighting together collectively and also for their QB. And I didn't get a chance to flip that game on. And then when I did, Mac Jones was under center, and I knew something was up. I didn't know anything about the hit or anything. And then by the time that I saw a replay, my reaction was kind of like that just now, because that was tough to watch. And you hope Lawrence is okay, because immediately after that hit, it did not look good.
Speaking of not looking good, going back to Thanksgiving, the Bears dropped a 23-20 loss to Detroit. No shame in losing to Detroit right now, except the Bears were on the plus side, had a timeout left that they took back to the locker room with them, and I guess Matt Eberflus can take that timeout into posterity, because he was fired afterward as his clock management came into question, among other things, over the course of the season for the second-year coach. So things have not gone well for the Bears and rookie quarterback Caleb Williams, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's frustrating, right? And, Williams has played pretty well. He's laid some eggs in some primetime games, but by and large across the season, he's had some pretty good efforts, and that's with two different now coordinators. And kind of an interesting, shall we say, if nothing else, head coach. Eberflus almost got fired at halftime because they were getting the brakes beat off them. And I was expecting them to just announce that he had been relieved of his duties at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes back, almost pulls off a crazy upset, only for one of the most ridiculous clock management episodes I think you'll ever see. And then he is officially fired. So, maybe they just didn't want to ruin Thanksgiving, and they wait a day to pull the plug. But there are some pieces there in Chicago, but right now it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah, there are some pieces in Chicago, but it's also, Chicago. And so that the dumpster fire kind of seems to be evergreen, unfortunately. So we'll see what direction they go on that. One name that's a little intriguing, Marcus Freeman apparently has been connected to that. Now, you feel like Marcus Freeman's got a pretty decent gig as a Notre Dame coach, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we will be joined by the queen of Tennessee sports media, Teresa Walker of the Associated Press. Stay with us after the break.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
He shoots, and he scores!
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We continue the Monday Mirror here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and we are pleased to now have with us Teresa Walker of the Associated Press, talking a little Titans. Now, we're gonna give Teresa a little bit of a pass because I'm not sure how much of the game she saw yesterday because she was busy with some other more important tasks, and understandably so for a number of reasons. But Teresa,
I don't think I missed much.
Nah.
I mean, I was listening on the radio for the first 25 minutes and then, I look at the phone during a little break. It's a taste testing for a wedding for my son in the spring. And it was like, yeah, I'm doing something better here. This is my 28th season. I've seen lots of these. And we thought that the Detroit game was the one that was Detroit could very well be the number one seed in the NFC, right? I mean, they're certainly making their argument and their case for it. Washington is coming in off of a 3-game skid. Yesterday felt like a game where, and I saw Jeffrey Simmons' comments after the game about a victory hangover, to which I'm, it's like, well, you're one of the veterans, you're one of the leaders, you're supposed to be helping guys work through that, avoid that, learn how to deal with that. You can't talk about stacking wins without learning how to stack wins, and that involves winning more than once every few weeks. Brian Callahan was definitely asked about that today, and he goes, he didn't see any signs of that during practice all week long, or early in the game. And it's more of a fact that this is a team that keeps hurting itself. You can't false start to start the game on offense. You can't have 2 fumbles that you lose in the first half that set up short fields and touchdowns. And, you just can't, it's like somebody keeps slapping themselves in the face. That's what the Titans are doing right now. They're the second most penalized team in the NFL. The only team that's gotten flagged more, Baltimore. And yet they're okay. But
one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make that make sense.
Yeah.
Well, and the Titans are also, next to last in turnover margin. So when you don't when you don't protect the ball, when you keep getting flagged, that's going to happen. Okay, it's just that's what's going to happen. So they're trying, and Daniel Brunskill talked to us, and he's like, we've been making these mistakes all season. They're trying to fix them, but and then I asked, it's like, what's the where's the problem in trying to fix this in the film room, doing it on the practice field, taking it to the game? And that's part of the problem. And he noted, like, for J.C. Latham having false start on the first play. Well, last week he went up against Daniil Hunter. and Danielle Hunter, really that was one of the rookie's worst games of the season. And Danielle Hunter is a really, really good pass rusher for the Houston Texans. And it was almost like he had a reflexive kind of little flinch there, knowing a pass play was coming, and he just kind of flinched and trying to get ready for a pass rusher. And it wasn't Hunter on the other side, but there was that carryover. So, it's like a boat that keeps springing leaks, and, they're trying to plug them. And when you think you've got something plugged, Jaquan Jackson, he's fumbled now in consecutive weeks. He's got 5 fumbles. He's recovered 2 of them, and all of them in the last 6 weeks. So it's like, it's just, where is this coming from? And they don't have a ton of options to replace him at punt returner. I mean, Tyler Boyd could, but Callahan says he'd mostly be back there to fair catch. So, they put Jackson on the bench yesterday to try to get his attention, but it's like, how do you get somebody to just quit fumbling the ball? That's where they're at right now. And, they're not eliminated, but they sure can see it, because right now on the NFL.com, their playoff probabilities is below 1%. So they're closer to being mathematically eliminated than they are contention. Now, the only good thing, out of the final 5 games, 4 of them are in the division. So they know those teams. They can play for some divisional pride. Where it matters is where you end up slotting, and what teams might you play next year are decided. Some of those opponents are decided by how you finish in the division. So that's where we're at. That and at the moment, as of today, they picked 7th in the draft next April. So, and the one good thing I think is, out of these last 4 games, Will Levis is showing us that he maybe could just be your quarterback. His numbers have been good. Passer rating over the span of over 101. I think it's 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He 2 sacks yesterday, but the yardage that's being lost on sacks is much less than what it was early in the season. So we're seeing improvement there, but they still can't fix the right side of the line. And, and then yesterday, the defense that had been so good, they didn't just spring weight, baby. They sunk. I mean, season high 267 yards rushing allowed by a defense that went in 8th against the rush. So they gave up 40 to Houston a week ago on the road. So it's like they didn't just get gashed; they got smashed.
Yeah, 42-19, the Commanders over the Titans yesterday. And while they may not be eliminated from postseason contention, this assures the Titans of their 3rd consecutive losing season. They fall to 3-9 with the loss. So,
yep. 3 straight. So maybe it wasn't all Mike Vrabel. And I'm not putting things on Brian Callahan. I mean, Brunskill said that Callahan has been great, that his message at halftime was keep fighting, don't quit, don't. But, it's like you're asking guys to go out and fight with rocks in their hands when the other guys are, fighting, MMA fighting, and they're just knocking you down over and over and over again. I will say the offense showed signs. They scored points in the second half. That's improvement. The problem is they settled for 2 field goals on 2 drives, where if they get in the end zone, then maybe it's a game. So I'll say this. I think Baltimore would kill in a heartbeat to have Nick Folk instead of Justin Tucker right now, something no one would have thought of a couple of years ago.
No. Washington set a franchise record with 21 first quarter points. Those aren't the things that you want to hear if you are a fan of the opposing team. And so, congrats, Titans.
Well, it could be worse. I mean, here, let me pull up the couple stats that are in my story that's being edited as we speak. The Titans, they had 11 of 12 penalties before halftime, and they trailed 28-7. They're also the last NFL team to be flagged at least 11 times and trail by 20 or more points by halftime. That was week 17 of 2005 against the Jaguars. Yeah. And then yet another one here. They gave up 28 points within the first 20 minutes. Only the 3rd team to do that in the last 5 seasons. Titans were the last team to do that earlier this year, week 8 to the Lions in Detroit. Other than that, Washington against Dallas in 21. So, yeah, it's a combination of good, bad, the horrible.
Yeah, and Teresa, your analogy about the boat and kind of taking on water and just trying to repair things is, I think, a perfect one. And what's also frustrating is, Washington had really struggled coming into this game, and I was kind of really oddly fascinated to see what would happen in this one because it seemed like Jaden Daniels still wasn't quite right after suffering that injury a couple of weeks now, maybe a month or two ago now. And instead, it felt like the Titans never gave themselves a chance to really even have any sort of real feel of being in this ball game.
Well, no, I mean, and that's the thing that was kind of stunning. I mean, that first touchdown run, I mean, it was like the Red Sea parted. I mean, how many times did they get hands on running backs? And when you can run the ball, guess what? That helps every quarterback, especially a rookie quarterback who's a little banged up. And he got into a rhythm pretty quickly because, it's not, I mean, yes, they got a couple sacks, but it's not like they were really putting him under serious pressure. And that's the challenge, to rattle a rookie quarterback. And that's the thing. Rookie quarterbacks against this franchise, since they've been in the state of Tennessee, it's almost like it's the Tennessee Titans kryptonite. Ryan Leaf has one of his very few NFL wins over the then Tennessee Oilers in 1998 at Vanderbilt Stadium. And I mean, the list is growing by the year. I don't know what it is. And this is a game that mattered to Bernard Wilson, the defensive coordinator. He grew up about 10 minutes from that stadium. Okay. And yet they couldn't get pressure. They couldn't stop the run. It was like the first time this season that the defense truly went MIA in a game.
Teresa Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as we talk a little Titans. What's next for these guys? Who do they lose to next?
Well, I don't think it's Jacksonville on Sunday, and that they're back home. And I mean, after that hit, and I heard you talking about it before. You watch that replay, Alshire. It's like he's got to be suspended. I mean, not only did he, I mean, you can tell Trevor Lawrence you've got to start sliding a little earlier. But that said, Alshire puts a forearm shiver into his head. And that's what made it even worse. And then you see that the fencing reaction. I mean, that does not. I would be stunned if Trevor Lawrence is out of the concussion protocol by Sunday. So that's a game that they should win, but then they also struggle against backup quarterbacks. So, although I have no clue.
Rookie quarterbacks and backup quarterbacks, huh?
Yes, and I'd have to look up who their backup quarterback actually is. So,
Mac Jones.
Okay,
the Mac attack, baby.
And he's, I mean, the Alabama guy, he's going to have some people come up, I'm sure, and root for him. So can he do what they, Titans need to go out and win a game. And then I think I'm trying to think of the schedule. I can't remember what it is.
Cincinnati the week after that at home.
Oh, Lord, we've got back-to-back home games. Good God.
Hallelujah. Well, it's Jacksonville at home, Cincy at home, like you said, and then all divisions.
Then at Indianapolis, Colts, at Jacksonville, and at Houston. So here's the thing. I want to see, can they put together back-to-back wins? Guys, it's been 36 games.
Since they've won consecutively?
Yes. They won 2 games over a span, November 12th to November 17th, 2022. And then Todd Downing was arrested. So maybe it's the Todd Downing jinx, curse. I don't know. But this team has not been able to string together consecutive wins since then. So it's a small step, but it's one that this franchise has not been able to make in over 2 years now. So it's almost like, reset the clock, 0 days without an accident on the job. Mm-hmm. Well, 0 days since they've been able to string together consecutive wins. Or you can go the other way, over 2 years, and that seems even worse. So try to win some games. Just try to limit the penalties, quick committing penalties, protect the ball. Basic football, right? I'm flashing to the scene in Bull Durham. It's a simple game. You catch the ball, you hit the ball, you throw the ball. Well, you don't get penalties, you don't turn the ball over, you win games. Let's see if they can do that down the stretch. And I'm not asking much. Just win back-to-back games. Show me you can do that.
You know, it's tough to win a game in the National Football League, Teresa. I mean, how many times did you hear that under the previous regime?
Over and over and over. And I also heard
So-
we got to coach better, we got to play better. And right now, the Titans they still need to do that.
I mean, if it's tough to win a game, then surely it's tough to win 2 games in a row.
Well, apparently it's much harder than we thought it would be. And, one of the questions that was brought up earlier, it's like some franchises manage to turn things around when they look like they are lost in the wilderness and they're going to be wandering for another 40 years. Houston was in this same position 2 years ago. And yet they've got a division title. They are atop the division again, cruising toward a second straight division title. The decisions you make can pay off quickly, but when you make the wrong decisions, they can haunt you for a long, long time. And right now the Titans are being haunted, and we'll see, can they press the right buttons here down the stretch and in this offseason with $65 million in cap space, I think, to do some things. Maybe another top 10 pick. Maybe they trade down, because at this point, the flashiest thing they could do would be to get another tackle. And if they take another offensive lineman for a third straight year, and I'm not even going to go back and count the Isaiah Wilson one, because that was just a wasted pick completely. I mean, talk about pouring investments into an area and not seeing results. Yeah, the good, bad, and right now it's just plain ugly.
As ugly as it is, though, I find myself, Teresa, it's frustrating. Yesterday, especially because Washington had struggled, but then also the back half of the schedule. I know every team has that run the table card in their back pocket, but I mean, Jacksonville is lowly. Titans are obviously lowly too, but Jacksonville is lowly. You get them twice. Obviously, Callahan, you assume, is going to be up for the Cincinnati game. I mean,
and Cincinnati's not great.
Cincinnati is not the Cincinnati that it was that came in here and beat the Titans in that divisional playoff game. So no,
absolutely not.
It's a winnable game if they don't hurt themselves. It's a winnable game,
and all 5 of these remaining games seem winnable. So the question is, I guess, if you're a Titans fan, is what do you hope for? What do you expect? Because if you win those 5, you're going to be really kicking yourself, because there's at least 2 or 3 games that have ended up in the loss column this year that were flat out giveaways. Other than that, you flip those to wins, and now you're talking about a team that would probably have won the division at this point.
Well, don't look back at the beginning of the season and the number of games that they had leads that they just simply couldn't hold, because they turnovers and the inability to score in the second half. So it is back to the basics. Win games and show that you can win games. Clean up some of these mistakes, show that you can fix some things, and give yourself, even with the roster turnover that happens every offseason, you've got some pieces in place to build around. Most importantly, Will Levis. And I can't even believe I'm saying this. I've got it in my analysis today. Nick Westbrook-Akine absolutely deserves a extension, a 2-3 year deal. Come on, Rand, give him a deal, baby, because he has absolutely earned it. He is tied for 4th in the NFL in touchdown catches, and didn't catch a pass for the first month of this season. Now, they did have DeAndre Hopkins around and didn't need him, but, guess what? And he has improved. I didn't think he should have made this roster coming into the season, and he has proved me wrong, because he's making catches. The guy who was coming up, short of a first down on 4th down, or, things like that, and he had a drop yesterday. They had at least 4 yesterday. So they didn't help Will Levis as much as they could have, but there's pieces to build around. Let these guys step up and let's see them grow. Let's see them fix the mistakes, some of the mistakes for at least, and win some games. It's not about draft stock. Don't talk to me about that. It doesn't matter, because this is not a draft that, if you're not getting a quarterback, you're not looking for Shadur Sanders or Cam Ward or Travis Hunter. So, you're going to be looking for somebody else. Maybe you look for James Pierce. You've got an out in Harold Landry's contract. Maybe you replace that person. Okay. But before we get to the offseason and all that needs to happen on the roster, show us how to play football without turning it over, committing penalties, and scoring in the second half and winning games. Because as some ex-NFL coach famously said, it's how, it's about winning the game. You play to win the game.
A coach did say that.
Didn't help him much.
I don't think he's coaching any longer, but he did say that. You're right. Teresa M. Walker of the Associated Press, the queen of Tennessee sports media, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Teresa, how did the tasting go?
Oh, it went great. I tell you, I can't wait for the wedding at Beaucheval down in Wartrace. The people who are doing the catering, and Wartrace is, I can't remember the name of it, but if you're looking for some catering down in that area, oh my! I mean, I have never had Brussels sprouts that were so good. Also,
I saw the pictures I saw the pictures of the Brussels sprouts, and you kind of lost me right there. But
they were so good. They were like crack. They were so good. It was like big chunks of bacon. And, if you remember steamed Brussels sprouts from your, days when mom would heat something up and to make you eat something green, no, put that out of your head. This was something delightful and enjoyable. And I didn't even get to eat half of what was on the table, because I'm celiac these days. So, but I wanted to dive into the country ham and biscuits and the little grilled cheese with the little blackberry jam on it, and the pot roast. And it's like, oh my, and chest pie with key lime pie. So yeah, that's going to be among the edibles for the wonderful wedding that my son is having. So yeah, I don't even remember the food from my wedding. I already remember the food from his wedding, and we aren't even there yet.
Well, I will say this, the steamed Brussels sprouts do still stick in my head, but bacon makes everything better. So
big chunks of bacon.
Hey, all right. Teresa, we appreciate it as always, and we will be checking in with you again soon. Stay warm.
Stay warm, and maybe we'll have something better to talk about soon.
That would be nice. It really would.
We'll talk Vols, college football, basketball. They're up to 3 in the top 25 poll. The Grizzlies are one of the winningest teams now. They've won 6 straight, and they're up, I think, 3rd in the West. So we got lots that we can talk about later.
We will. We will. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, T.
When we return to the Lee Company studio after this break on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it'll be the final segment of the day. It'll be the grab bag. See what we come up with after this.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
It's the final segment of Main Street Sports Today's Monday Mirror, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company Studios at HQ here in Columbia and in Pulaski. And it is the grab bag as we try to tie up some loose ends here over the last 11 minutes of the show. Let's start with a little high school football. As we mentioned in the rundown, Division I semifinal games took place this past Friday night. And so the field is set for the Blue Cross Bowl that begins Thursday down at Finley Stadium in Chattanooga, home of the Tennessee Chattanooga Moccasins, or the Chattanooga Mocs. I think they prefer Chattanooga rather than Tennessee Chattanooga or UTC, but that's where they play. Thursday's schedule begins. All of these are Central Time starts. If you're listening to us from Eastern Time, just add an hour. And thank you for listening. But at 10 Thursday morning, Battleground Academy takes on defending state champion Christ Presbyterian. The Lions coming into that game undefeated at 13-0. BGA 11-2 under first-year coach Bobby Bentley, friend of the show. BGA lost to CPA during the regular season. They're both out of the same region, so it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. I'm excited to check out the quarterback for BGA, Caden Marable. He is a Mr. Football finalist, I do believe, and you know, I remember Coach Bentley kind of bragging on him a little bit when we had him on earlier in the year. So looking forward to that one. Again, 10 o'clock, CPA and BGA.
We did that one on Thursday night preps, and oh my goodness, that should be a fun rematch down in Chattanooga. CPA kind of wore them down, but that will be a great way to start Blue Cross Bowl action.
I know a bunch of coaches and coaches' kids playing for the Wildcats in that one, so it'll be fun to watch. The second game of the day on Thursday involves Nashville Christian and highly touted junior quarterback Jared Curtis against Columbia Academy. The Bulldogs making their first state championship game appearance in program history. They go into that game 10-3 on the year. Nashville Christian 11-1. They're only lost to BGA. This Columbia Academy team, we've talked about them a little bit on the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show. Be sure and check that out at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, by the way. Been playing really well since a 45-7 loss to Nashville Christian back in week 8. They've won their last 5 games and done so pretty handily by about 5 touchdowns on average. Got a couple of guys coming up on 2,000 yards on offense. Monte Baldwin, the senior running back, Stephen Neves, the senior quarterback, transfer from Ravenwood. I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't think this game will be 45-7.
Doesn't feel like it. To your point, yeah, Columbia Academy seems like maybe they learned something about themselves from that previous loss. I think this one will be fun.
Now watch Jeff Brothers clip that out and play it on a loop for his guys. In the finale Thursday night, two teams that won't have to travel very far as Baylor and McCallie, a couple of old school Chattanooga rivals will face off. Baylor coming in undefeated at 12-0, McCallie 10-2. And obviously one of those 2 losses was to Baylor earlier in the year, 44-12, I believe it was. That game kicks at 6 Central Time on Thursday, wraps up the Thursday slate. On Friday, Class 3A, the team that everybody down in Wade's neck of the woods loves to hate, Alcoa, the Tornadoes. I don't know how many straight state championships they've won right now, but they're going for another one, but they'll have to beat an undefeated Westview team to do so in the 10 o'clock matchup on Friday. Alcoa is really good.
Yeah, their playoff record is 139-15. They've made 38 playoff appearances. They've won 22 state championships. Did have 2 runner-ups. But yeah, they're good, and they're no longer public enemy number 1 for Giles County. They've decided to move up to 4A. So Giles County's kind of scrambling. Mo, we feel a little weird right now here in Pulaski. We're not. Really
Who do you hate, huh?
Yeah, we're not really sure. Other than Marshall County, of course, which is just long-standing. So other than that, we got to find somebody new to be in our 3A crosshairs.
139-15 in the postseason. That is a winning percentage of .903. That's nuts. That game will be.
They've won every one since 15. 15. They finished runner up in 14. They've won every one since 15.
Since. Good
Lord. Yep.
The Class 1A game again, a 2:00 kick on Friday Central Time. South Pittsburgh, the Pirates coming in at 12-2. Mace, Memphis Academy of Science and Engineering coming in at 12-1. And one of those 12 was a win over McKenzie last week. So you guys know a little bit about McKenzie from one trip up here to the Brickyard and one trip by Richland out there. McKenzie was good and Mace beat him. So
crazy.
Draw your own conclusions.
Yeah, McKenzie, that was mind-blowing. They had a lead in the fourth quarter, and that's a defense that had only, I mean, they're not quite to Page's level, but they'd only given up like 50 points or something, maybe 60 points all year, and then they give up 40 in a loss to Mace on the road. That was a tough result for those guys.
Absolutely.
But a good win for Mace, obviously.
No doubt. The Friday nightcap again, 6:00 kick, undefeated Page, 14-0, outscoring opponents 504-31, taking on the Smoky Bears of Sevier County, also undefeated. And Page, 3 straight state runner-up finishes, looking to take the next step Friday night.
It'd be nice to see them take that next step. But man, playing a really good Sevier County team, and you just hope that you don't get in the fourth quarter and you're like, are we really about to finish runner-up again? Because it feels like, especially when you're talking high school kids, that could creep in the doubt. So that should be a fantastic showdown.
Saturday starts off at 10:00 with the Class 4A state championship game between Melrose, which again scored with 41 seconds remaining to knock off visiting Pearl Cone 14-7. Pearl Cone having won last year's state title. Melrose 10-3 taking on 12-2 Macon County, first state championship game appearance for the Tigers over in Lafayette. Don't say Lafayette.
Yeah, tough result for Pearl, who was riding high off a nail biter versus Marshall County the round prior, and just quite couldn't get it done. 4A, is regarded. I think a lot of folks. There's a lot of good classifications, but it feels like year in, year out, 4A is one of the most unpredictable, but also one of the most competitive at times.
Absolutely. At 2:00 on Saturday, it's Milan and Marion County. The Bulldogs 13-1. Marion County 12-2, right there close to Chattanooga. You pass through there from here to there. So they ought to have plenty of folks over there. Again, 2:00 Saturday. Milan, one of their assistants, former Lewis County, former Columbia Central head coach Bobby Sharp. So the Bulldogs back in the state finals.
That'll be a fun matchup too. Like you said, all of Jasper is going to be coming down for that one. They've been rolling. They've had some close games. They've lost a couple of games, but they have a stiff test coming in from Milan over in West Tennessee.
Closing things out on Saturday night, 6:00 kickoff Central Time with a rematch from last year's state championship game in 6A. It's Oakland and Houston. The Patriots 13-1, that one loss in overtime loss to Ravenwood, who Houston beat 24-21 over the weekend. The Mustangs coming in at 12-2 and the defending state titleists in 6A.
6A football. Yeah, this is what you hope for. You hope it's a great game, a great way to close out what is probably going to be a fantastic week of football. Kind of a showcase in some regards for the rest of the country, right? When you have your biggest classification, your final game, I look forward to another good one between two really good teams who are very familiar with one another.
We will be expanding our show by 30 minutes on Thursday and Friday to keep you abreast of everything that's going on in Chattanooga. So be sure and check us out at 1:30 Thursday and Friday ahead of the Division II games and ahead of the Class 3A, 1A, and 5A games. We will have a recap for you starting at 1:30 on Monday. So be sure and join us here at Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We will see you tomorrow at 2:00. Thanks for joining us.